patterns in 24-25 underscore a shift towards infrastructure and fleet-based models. So there are a couple of bigger transactions which have happened. Battery Smart, a battery swapping provider, a Charge Zone, which is a public fast charging infrastructure company, Zip Electric. All these are the companies which have raised funds for expansion during FY 24-25. On the public side also, when you're talking about CESL, which is a government-owned firm coordinating EV procurement, tendered 10,900 EV buses under the PM E-Drive. So again, a lot of support coming in from the government there. The most crucial thing here is compliance. And it's like, governance has been non-negotiable now. After some setback cases, investors have gone tighter, safeguard the interest of the investors also. Setbacks have shown what happened when basic protections are missing. Audit and due diligence did not accept to allied entities, leaving space for misuse. Investors are determined not to repeat that mistake. In all this discussion we have done, there are certain challenges where we are still persisting, and probably during this discussion we would like to have some answers from our eminent speakers there. One, the resale values are still unclear, and without secondary market for used EV and batteries, banks shorten loan terms and increase equity requirement. I think there is a lot of funding support which needs to come in even now in these sectors as such. And then the PLI compliance is still a little difficult that we talk about. They are more focused on larger players currently. It's like, when you're talking about new entrants into the EV sectors, तो उनके लिए अभी भी PLI थोड़ा सा challenge है. So how about, we can have a A-graded PLI2 scheme, which could cater to startup and the mid-sized companies. So there were some of the thoughts while I was looking at the sector, I thought we could discuss on this. So with this, I would like to open this session to my speakers. We would like to first start with some introduction to the speakers here. I would like to introduce my eminent speakers. So my first speaker is Mr. Abhijit Sinha. Mr. Sinha is a technocrat and currently serves as a National Program Director of EODB, that's Ease of Doing Business, where he heads India's premier emerging tech piloting agency. He contributes to building micro-level tech economies across states and sectors in alignment with macro tech economic vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He was previously a member of Prime Minister Modi 2014 campaign as a part of Citizen for Accountable Governance, CAGP. We welcome you for the session, sir. Mr. Vikrant Agarwal is a co-founder of EDI Technologies with a strong background in electronics and communication engineering. He has been instrumental in driving innovations and contributing to the company's growth in the electric vehicle infrastructure sector. They have recently signed a MOU with the Himachal government to develop EV infrastructure. Many congratulations on that, Vikrantji, and welcome to the session. So my third speaker here is Mr. Shantanu Chaturvedi. He comes in from the investor side. Mr. Shantanu is a partner with Transition VC, a climate and decarbonization focused fund, bringing a strong background in scaling early stage ventures and evaluating deep tech companies. He has extensive experience in startup ecosystems, particularly in EV, renewable, IoT, where he has delivered and scaled market-ready technologies from concept to market. Previously, he headed the EV Center of Excellence at iCreate, wow, where he conceptualized and executed India's largest EV innovation challenge and onboarded 50 deep tech EV companies. Welcome to the team, Shantanu. It's a privilege to have you here. My fourth speaker is Mr. Naveen Gupta, founder of Trev Mobility. Mr. Naveen has 12 years of diverse global experience in automobile and e-commerce industries. He has built marketplaces from scratch, handled P&Ls for mature businesses, managed high-performance teams, and driven technology as well as international expansion. He's adept at working at high ambiguous environments while remaining focused on organizational goals. Beyond work, Naveen is an avid traveler who has explored 50 plus countries for both work and leisure. He is also a sports enthusiast and a salsa dancer in making. Welcome to the session, Naveen. Next speaker is Mr. Kapil Sharma. Mr. Kapil Sharma is currently serving as a CEO at Prakriti E-Mobility Private Limited, a role he has held since June 2023. In his leadership positions, he has been dedicated to driving the company's growth and success in the e-mobility sector. Kapil's entrepreneurial journey began as a founder of Disease Pizza. Wow, that's interesting. Where he successfully managed the business for 2 years. He started his profession career as a senior associate derivative trade, trader at Futures First in Jaipur. My last speaker today is Mr. Udit Rawat. He is director with Snappy. Mr. Udit is an experienced corporate finance professional with over 7 years of experience in delivering values and driving growth for organizations. He possesses a strong background in financial planning and analysis and is highly skilled at leveraging data driven insights to support strategies, decision making. In the current role, Udit focus on identifying and implementing emerging technologies such as AI and machine learning to optimize business processes and enhance the end use experience. His ability to blend financial expertise with technology adoption positions him as a forward looking leader in evolving business landscapes. Welcome to the session, Udit. It's a pleasure to have all of you with us, and we definitely look forward to a very interesting session here. So, I would like to start this discussion with our keynote speaker, Abhijit Sinha sir. So, if you can just take us through all about NHEV and what are the various developments in the sector.
Thank you, ma'am. It is always a pleasure to have you here, and it's always a pleasure to be on Resurgent India platform. The way you have outlined in the beginning, this has actually served the purpose of Caviar that we all needed, because you have touched upon majority of conversations that is happening in the industry, and I would like to build upon it, bringing some insights that an emerging tech piloting agency can bring. National Highway EV as a pilot project was oriented on two basic fundamental challenges. One, when we say electric mobility is profitable, then whether it is technically reasonably profitable, practically profitable or not, that's the question that industry is again and again asked by all players and adopters. Second is if we are going to take the decision from an individual mindset, the decision of buying a EV and shifting it to some from diesel to petrol, it is very difficult to shift that particular decision from individual to institutional, and without which it is not possible to actually bring any changes. So if you are going to take a decision, you will consider a lot of parameters into the decision. But if your organization is going to take a decision, how it is going to shift. So if I take you forward, the technical upgradation which electric mobility is going to provide to transport and surface transport and decarbonization of surface transport, then it would have major issues with technology, with range anxiety. So four major, without I have a limited time allocated to me. So without going into preface, I'll be able to share the insights of that what has came. So first technical trial that we did, my office is also putting up a presentation so that you can correlate it with this. So technical trial one, which was between Delhi to Agra, it given a clarity that a vehicle which is running on National Highway EV would be able to be given a technical backup. within 30 minutes. So when we say within 30 minutes means a EV which is getting shut down on highway because of any reason. It could be discharge, it could be a technical fault, it could be a tire puncture. It would be getting a backup within 30 minutes, which in case in diesel, more than 2.5 hours. Second technical point is everyone grieving about in the beginning of electric mobility start that the vehicles are very expensive. So we did the technical trial one, and from technical trial one, we could see that in 30% reduction can be provided by putting the battery on subscription. So first we took an approval from Ministry of Road Transport and Highway that a vehicle and the battery can be sold and registered separately in 2020. Then we conducted the trial, two trials consequently on that. And now I think one of our participants, MG Motors, has also rolled out two of their model where you don't need to pay for the battery. You only need to pay for the vehicle, which reduces the price up to 30%. Third is national infrastructure average of utilization in on a pan-India average is 3% to 5%. Over a period of time, in some captive utilization, it has increased to certain degree of utilization. But in National Highway EV, we always made it possible that our day one utilization should be 30%. And last but not least, everyone in market knows how much a petrol pump is earning. What is the base argument of funding a petrol pump? What is the break-even period of a petrol pump? But nobody knows that if you are investing into a charging infrastructure business, what is going to be your break-even period? So we are the first one who calculated the break-even period of a large size charging station bigger than a petrol pump, and it is 3 year to 4 year, not more than that. So that's a takeaway from first trial. I'll quickly move to state government because the state government has no role in National Highway EV to give funding because it is pre-funded in a PPP mode. The land is from NHAI, NHLML, or individual partners. So in all those conditions, the work that the state government has to do is only to provide power on those estates and power into megawatt charging, because I'm seeing the fast charging and the DC charging is moving towards a megawatt charging, and power provision from a DISCOM was a huge hue and cry. I'm also fortunate to be president of Charge Point Operators Society of India, and as we get a lot of difficulty of doing business as a complaint to our office, that particular DISCOM is giving them a 6 month time, 4 month time for giving a connection for charging. So this was becoming a very big issue. We managed to bring state governments on a platform to seek that particular upgradation fund from National Infrastructure Development Fund, which was announced by our Honorable Minister of Finance in 2025. I will deliberate more upon it during the session. Third takeaway is charge point operators takeaway, CPOs takeaway. Charge point operators cannot be expected to have land on highway. We can't expect them to go and bid for large size of land. Then they have to go for a power connection. They have to make sure that the safety of that particular site is done. They also have additional manpower for keeping the charger uptime. So all charge point operators takeaway that NHEB provides is to provide them a co-working space. After each 50 kilometer, one charging station, which is 4.5 to 5 acre big, which has the capability to upload and make live around 72 chargers. And these 72 chargers would be able to start from 30 minimum to 160, 65 over a period of time without upgrading the grid. So that's the comfort which is from the land and power government of India through National Highway EV pilot project is giving. Apart from this, there is a footfall, there is a manpower which is required for keeping the charger uptime. I'm not saying that the project has not happened before us. There are a lot of chargers came on the petrol pump, on the food joint, but majority of time, when you land on a food joint or a petrol pump, you might face a fault issue in the charger, which turns you off that, okay, I came to it. If I am not in position to succeed and giving a confidence to a woman that she can take an electric car at night alone and go on an intercity highway, then I consider National Highway EV a failed project. So that's the thought process which we took around, that every station should be in position to give all these basic amenities: safety, land, power, amenities, and charging services for charger also and for vehicle also 24/7. So that's a takeaway from CPOs. Fleet operators. Every fleet operator, you can't expect to start a petrol pump business parallelly. When we started working with Neogo, when we started working with Blue Smart, and MG and many other small fleet operators, they all were doing their infrastructure themselves. It is like a bus company or a truck company owning and developing its own petrol pump. So we took off the entire infrastructure from fleet operators book, and now they are on a binding contract with us. You can see in the presentation going forward on the map that how this 5,500 kilometer stretch, which is coming in Bharatmala and Sagarmala highway, to give a confidence to all fleet operator to deploy their vehicle, which are less in price and which are going forward and bringing more of the fleet operators in the light business. Third is fleet. Other than fleet operators, there are policy takeaway. Policy
Right.
takeaway means primarily the level of standards, specification, certification. If these three things are not standardized, it is difficult for us to fund finance. And I come from a banking background, so I understand that funding a vehicle was a tough task. NHEV made it possible that infrastructure can be funded. We are the first pilot project which are funded by credit outlay of HDFC Bank. Then we are now having more banks adding on to it. Recently, we opened a instrument of 500 crore rupees for only truck financing. These instruments, these credit outlay, this viability gap funding are significantly changing the policy, significantly answering the question of first loss guarantee, whether what is the residual value, what is the insurance, what would be the handover value at each stage of the asset, and how we will be able to be answering these. That could be a policy. Climate financing and support from Ministry of Road Transport and Highway. I've already spoken that there are only two ways which we are seeing in upgrading highway is either in some time of now HAM or annuity hybrid e-mobility, a derivative of HAM model, would be able to raise the toll fees. If you're paying today 210 rupees, it could be 250 rupees to upgrade that particular highway into e-highway. And in raising this toll fees is one option. Second is a large land piece can be provided to CPOs to do the revenue making businesses, so that pan India, we should be in position to give 10 rupees to 12 rupees kilo per hour, kilo per watt charging for electric fleets and all other organizations. So I can go on and on with Ministry of Finance, Power, and also the mobility which is required. But one last thing which I want to say before I close my opening remark is there are vehicles going to increase on roads which are not going to use petrol and diesel. These vehicles require a different type of asset, different type of powered dispensing utilities. And these utilities, these assets are going to give you majority of requirement not in match, not in line with the petrol pumps. They are going to be a hub for waiting at least 60-65 minutes. And these could not be the first generation of petrol pump, second generation of petrol pump. They are going to be third generation charging station. And these third generation charging station, we should not plan on the whole grid backup. We should be having a very clear chart for decarbonizing these stations. These stations should be in position to give backup to all electric vehicles, LNG vehicles, CNG vehicle, anything which is decarbonized should be linked and clubbed with these stations, so that their service, their roadside assistance, their breakdown can be linked, and we should be in position to go ahead and take it forward. In all nutshell, if I can just bring one of the stakeholding capability, one of the instrument which we have recently opened, which has stakeholders, and these stakeholders are those 4-5 players who are going to decide and who are going to work on the stakeholding of this development of third generation charging station. Apart from 5,000 crore rupees for first instrument, we have now moved to a 500 crore rupees, which is only dedicated to trucks. If we can move forward, Bhumika, if we can go on the stakeholder page in next 4 or yes, 50. These are the 4-5 stakeholders who are going to lease, who are going to provide the logistics services: asset owners, leasing, fleet operators, EV infrastructure, and EV OEM. All 5 of them coming together and giving a solution to a company which is dealing into cement, into mines, into manufacturing, into fertilizer, or into large furniture. They all are using some mode of transport, and these mode of transport majorly are into diesel and petrol. These diesel options are proven to be now, and technically being proven to be with a data-driven pilot, are expensive and much costlier than the electric mobility. So if the cost is serving the purpose, if the decarbonization is giving you all that green signal and green check boxes, then why not industry will shift to it? And to shift to it, if it is required to conduct a trial, you can see on the screen, we are there to conduct much more trials. On the map, if you can go ahead, next. On the map, you can see there are 5,500 kilometer e-highway, and then there are Bharatmala and Sagarmala, the cross which you can see from right to left and left, east to west and north to west, is also the truck is developing. So all of these are zeroing down, are melting down to a smoother and a right, very, I can say ease of doing business into deployment, decarbonization of your freight and your businesses.
Fantastic. No, I think, Abhijit sir, hats off to you. The kind of work which you have done on NHEV in last 5 years. So I've seen the journey which you have covered, and the pointers that you're talking about, some technical trials, battery on subsidy mode, and then on the funding side also, then working charging point operators. So I think all these are major things which are being done in the sector, and you require a lot of infrastructure support in case EVs have worked successfully. And I think all these infrastructure support has been giving a lot of confidence to the investors also who are coming into the sector. So thank you so much for your presentation. I will make sure to share this with all the people who are joining in today for them to have a little more detailed idea on that. Thank you so much for all your feedback.
Thank you.
So I would request you to just stay here in case anybody has any questions. So I will definitely take it up with you post this session on that. So I would like to start my question answer discussion first with Udit. Udit is the Director of Finance with Snappy Cabs. So Udit, what has your experience been like? It's more of a startup early stage funding right now. So what has been your experience like in raising early stage funding as an EV fleet operator? And what was the toughest hurdle? Now I understand you guys have been in the market for quite some time with currently almost around 200 to 50 fleets. But I just wanted to more understand about how has been the journey been when you guys started up, and what were the major hurdles that had come in?
Sure, Sonal. Thank you so much for inviting, first of all, and thank you for bringing everyone together. This is, one of these forums where we are very happy to share our learnings and also get a good learning from, our esteemed other key speakers. So for us, EV funding was again back in 2022. We were from eastern part of India where EV was still at a very nascent stage, right? So green number plates in itself was something new at that point in time. While other parts of India, EV was still picking up. And I am sure Blue Smart had already started, which was, the pioneer in our industry. At overall, pitching it to investors from East India was ground up work for us. So overall at Snappy, we did 2 rounds of funding. Back in 2024, we did a pre-series A of 2.5 odd million. And earlier this year, we did a bridge round of around $1 million. Now, the idea with investors has always been that from eastern part of India, how you can expand, how you can bring more value to not just us but to the public out there as well, right? And in terms of sustainability, it was very interesting to see that Kolkata was coming up as one of the key players, right?
Wow.
Interestingly, one of the major hurdles was also because of this very reason, that EV as an asset, right? While the TCO and the cost of operations made a lot of sense for operators. On Excel, it was looking wonderful, right? That okay, in 5 years you will do 50% IRR. You are gonna make multi-fold returns, and the projections were great. But on ground, the major hurdle that we faced was around the EV asset For example, a Tata Tigor or a Citroen, right? Those were in their first generation at a very nascent stage. So what was their, second life? What was their RV value? And how can we really project whether an Excel is saying, if an Excel is saying 10 years, whether actually it's going for 10 years or not, right? Because that
How do you
itself was
justify
the
that?
fundamental.
Right.
Exactly. And because of that very reason, we had to wait it out. We had to put our own money for the first 2 years, uh, get a good number story,
Hmm.
because the asset story was really not working out. To be honest, even today, it's not working out to a great extent, because even today, people are not sure about the second life of,
Hmm.
EVs, right? Uh, but having said that, the idea that we brought on paper was, while asset could be some part of the risk, right? We
Hmm.
de-risked it with numbers, with higher profitability, higher operations, and a very clear path to profitability. Being an investor, and they also managing people money, right? It was quite prudent and natural to have these questions, and we believe that at Snappy, while EV as an asset was a big hurdle, but our healthy financials, both top line, bottom line, did work out for us, and those translated into good, I would say, fundraise. So till now we have done 3.5 odd million, and we look forward to more support from investors. uh, Last but not the least, our investors were not just typical finances, but then folks who were also mentors to us. So they have helped us navigate this journey, because in this space, every day new technology is coming up, every day something is evolving. So to be at that forefront, to be able to pivot or improvise quickly, right, was something that was really helpful in taking our fundraising journey forward.
Great. So, cracks there could be one, it's bootstrapping, which I'm
Correct.
sure, Naveen and Kapil both would
Absolutely.
agree with me, because both of them are on the same boat right now. So,
Right.
I think one is bootstrapping, where, probably you are able to show your performance through the bootstrapping. The numbers are able to justify whenever you go into an investor, because, debt generally is a little question mark whenever you are going with a new product, or you go into a banker, जी हम EV में पैसा देख
Correct.
रहे हैं. So the
हाँ.
numbers generally are not digestible with most of the bankers, at least. Yeah, but when you bootstrap, you reach a certain stage, and you're able to justify the numbers. That is where the story begins. And yes, investors play a major role. If you have a strategic investor or somebody who understands the business, so I think half of the
Exactly.
journey is sorted out. So at least, he's able to understand the challenges. If the numbers are not as per what it is marked, अगर वो 2-4% per नीचे, so at least he's able to sink in because he knows the industry well. So
Correct.
great. I think, wonderful to have that thought. I'll come back to you for the next question. My
Sure,
next
sure.
question is to Shantanu. So Shantanu is a partner with Transition VC, coming in with a hardcore investor background. So Shantanu, within the electric mobility space that we're talking about today, with segments like battery technology, charging infrastructures, or OEMs, which segment as an investor do they prioritize and why?
Sure. So thank you, Sonal, for the question, and thank you so much for having me here. Um, just quickly talking about the maturity levels, right? So it all depends. So there is a lot of investment flowing in all of these sectors and all of these segments in the EV space, but it's all about maturity. So, for example, in the EV two-wheeler vehicle OEM space, the maturity has gone, like there are Acerola have done an IPO. There are large incumbent players. So there will definitely not be seed or early stage funding in these sectors. There will be later, much later, maybe private equity type plays, late stage private equity type plays, or a lot of financing, leasing type opportunities in these sectors. Similarly, for the charging space, there is chargers, CPOs, CMSs are all very, very mature in the industry today. So again, you would see mid-market, late-market private equity plays there, and a lot of leasing, financing, underwriting plays over there. Again, no early stage funding. The sub-components are a slightly earlier stage than the vehicles and the charging. So sub-components like battery pack, motors are reasonably mature still, but those sort of companies are starting to attract, say, Series A, B, C funding. Again, not pre-seed, seed. I mean, as an investor in these sectors, you wouldn't want to invest at a seed stage because there are large incumbent players and there are innovative startups also that have raised significant amounts. So motors, controllers again would be in that series A, B, C sort of stage. Battery packs again would be, in fact, a step ahead of motors would be perhaps series B, C, D stage because innovative companies exist and large incumbent players like Exide, Amara Raja exist. If you're looking to make early
Okay.
stage yeah, so if you're looking to make early stage investing bets, not too much exists in the subcomponent space, not too much exists in the vehicle charger space. Maybe a step further, maybe subcomponents on how to perhaps make magnets in India, how to make perhaps the semiconductors in India, how to make perhaps new, completely different types of energy storages in India. That sort of technologies would attract early stage, seed stage sort of funding. If you are fundamentally different from the incumbent players, they're fundamentally different from the technology that's in the market today, early stage funding can still come about, but that has to have at least like a 5x 10x defensibility and a differentiation. You A simple magnet based motor or a lithium based chemistry would not attract early stage funding now. All of those sectors are very, very mature from an investment perspective. So either mid market, late market private equities or growth stage venture capital. And then once this sort of maturity from venture capital has been achieved, then you can see a lot of debt and financing play come in here.
Absolutely. I think, very well said that maturity plays a major crux here. And like in the other fundings also, which have happened when I was mentioning about battery charge or with Zip kind of guys where the VCs have put in money. So these guys have reached a certain stage level before, VCs could come and invest in them. But very rightly said, for an early stage investment, if there are magnets or semiconductors kind of companies with a different technology which is engaged there, so could be of some interest to investors coming. Yeah, I think, very well captured here because ultimately, the investor has to sink in with the numbers. And these numbers can only come in once you are able to demonstrate 2-3 years of balance sheet at least. So thank you so much. I appreciate your question. Thank you so much. And my next question will go to Kapil Sharma from eMobility. Kapil, again, you are coming in from the fleet background. What are the most significant financial barriers that keeps EV fleet from scaling faster? मतलब आई थिंक टेंटेटिवली आप लोगों को थोड़ा सा टाइम ज्यादा हो गया है मार्केट के अंदर सो व्हाट आर द फाइनेंशियल बैरियर्स फ्रॉम योर साइड व्हिच यू थिंक व्हिच हैज probably been taken you back from scaling faster? I understand you guys have raised some funds lately, but initial barriers, if you can talk about.
Thank you, Sonal, and good afternoon, everyone. I think there are a couple of challenges around financing side of the cars and running the business as well. But I would say it's not because of the product availability on the market and in the ground, or having some specific product with banks and NBFC. But I would rather say it's more of a confidence in the ecosystem that effectively allows these institutes to give you a better proposition. And where we lack in, I mean, we mean all of us and all the ecosystem lacking is around when it comes to running a car, we think that it's an EV, noiseless car. Uh, it would have lower cost of running. All those things are great. But when we see the other side of the spectrum, where from a driver perspective, if and take home is lower than the alternate ICE fuel cars, that is where the real burn, I mean, the real challenge for everyone, right? And the key component of that challenge is number one, definitely the EMI that already talked. But beyond that, there are certain things which are, I mean, the downtime of the car because of charging requirement, technology around charging, all those things. So when we were doing the same stuff since 2019, it's been 6 years.
कपिल
Years
जी,
have been very difficult.
सॉरी आपकी आवाज बीच में डिस्कनेक्ट हो गई थी.
Sorry. So first 3-4 years have been very difficult for us because the product itself was a challenge. You cannot run a car beyond 8-10 hours because of the protocol.
Infrastructure नहीं था, right?
Infrastructure is one, but the car itself has lacking in terms of technological advancement, right? It requires 8 hours of slow charging to maintain the battery and all these things. In 2024, what has happened is that we were able to reach to individual OEMs and ask why you are not giving a warranty of 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. Because if there is this warranty, then the financial institute will get a confidence, and then only you will get 5-year EMIs. Until unless you will not get 5-year EMIs, your upfront cost for a driver, which is 12, 13, 15,000 for an ICE car, would become still double for EV car. So this is the biggest barrier that we found in our journey. But thanks to the OEMs, especially Tata, who came forward and built those products in late 23 and early 24, which we were able to take to the financing institution, eventually got 5-year financing, which effectively made the unit economics for a driver on a daily level sustainable. And I think this is the pivot. Since then, we are seeing the traction among EV adoption has increased a lot, and definitely battery costs going down and efficiency of BMS is coming up. We feel that this will further squeeze down, which will make eventually EV better than ICE. This is the path that we have to take it. But I think first biggest step has already been taken by the ecosystem. I feel there are more cohesiveness required from other players, other OEMs, other institutes as well to reach to overcome that challenge for every individual driver to become sustainable.
Absolutely, very well captured. Whether from the time you guys have been in the market, उस time पे तो infrastructure was a major hurdle. Anybody who was thinking about EV, तो वो बोलता था कि भैया गाड़ी तो ले आएंगे, infrastructure कैसे manage करेंगे? So I think the kind of work which has happened on the infrastructure side in last 4 to 5 years has been very commendable. And yes, I think a lot of transformation on the policy sides also, which has improved the EV infrastructure today. And undoubtedly, मतलब अगर हम आज उसको EV को normal commercial vehicle से compare करते हैं, so although we are still little on the higher side, but impact to create over that you cannot compare it. It's like, EV today is creating a huge amount of impact, be it in the car side or be it in the buses or into even the truck side. So I think the kind of impact that's creating is really commendable. So for me, I think EV is the future. So great. I will come back to you, Kapil, for your next question. My next question goes to Vikrant ji. Vikrant ji is coming from the EV infrastructure side. And my first question to him is, battery supply chains are still import dependent. I think that's one challenge. what's the way forward for battery manufacturers and packagers when the core input itself remains uncertain and costly?
Okay, good
Make in
afternoon.
India.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much, Sonalji.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, although from day one we were focusing only on EV chargers, because when we started there were no talk of any electric vehicle in India back in 2016-17 from IIT Delhi campus. So we were just putting ourselves in the shoes which we can make it, which is EV charger at the time, because that is low cost product which we can focus at the time. But largely, the entire ecosystem is fully dependent upon batteries. And you're absolutely right. I mean, the battery supply chains, particularly for key raw materials like lithium, cobalt, nickel,
Bahari dependent.
largely they are largely dependent upon import dependent. So this creates vulnerability not just in terms of cost volatility, but also strategic autonomy. And if we talk about, however, if we talk about what are the multiple paths Indian battery manufacturers and packagers can pursue to mitigate these challenges, that we can, of course, set before the battery manufacturers to mitigate these import-dependent challenges. So one could be, I think, localized value addition and cell manufacturing, which I mean, while we may still need to import raw materials in short term, but scaling up domestic cell manufacturing and battery pack assembly helps retain more value within India. With initiatives like PLI schemes, India is already making strides in these areas, I guess. So overall, I mean, sort of not this only, but there are few other points. I think if time allows, I can explain, like diversification of raw material sources, like we are importing a few materials from other countries, that we can diversify from other resources rather than to focus on that countries. Recycling and urban mining. So urban mining means recovering lithium, cobalt, and nickel from end of life batteries. If we talk
Okay.
about recycling the goal, so we can focus that part also, which is not there as of now. Investment in R&D and alternative chemistries, which is there, but not at that scale, which has to be there. Since we are import dependent, we are not focusing on alternative chemistries for the batteries at that extent, which we are, right now discussing. Strategic reserves, industry collaboration. And if I talk in short, I think while import dependence for raw material may persist in the medium term, but building strong domestic capabilities in refining, cell manufacturing, R&D, and recycling, the sustainable way forward is this. And the goal should not be just self-reliance, but smart reliance, where we can diversify strategic and innovation lead to the entire import dependent activity which we are doing for the battery segment. I think these are the few, I think, points which we normally adopted initially for the EV charger segment, and when we were understanding the EVs. So these are the few pointers which we adopted while we were designing the thing, EV chargers. I think this is same applicable to EV batteries, but of course the metals and the chemistry which are fully part of the battery, that has to be interlinked with that particular points which I just mentioned.
Okay, very well said on that. Matlab self-reliant and smart-reliant is what the crux here is. कि मतलब ठीक है, if not 100% we can make in India, but जो भी major हम लोग कर सकते हैं, we should try doing it in India. And I think a lot of work has already been done under the PLI scheme, like you rightly mentioned. The government has been very actively promoting PLI scheme, but again, I would go back to my introduction where, the PLI scheme generally is for larger sectors, for startups, for mid-sized companies, वो अभी उतना available है नहीं.
Correct.
So where can we find a solution to that is something more important. That, these guys are able to get an access to the PLI schemes as such. So I think like earlier discussion, Shantanu was also mentioning that early stage fundings are very difficult from the VC perspective. And, even when you're talking about the other people like Udit and Kapil were mentioning that earlier they were only bootstrapping for the reason that, okay, बैंकर को समझ ही नहीं आता है
Yes.
कि नंबर्स कैसे जाने। तो इस केसेस के अंदर अगर हम कुछ PLI के थ्रू फंड रेज कर सके, where probably we can get some support there, that would be really helpful. And I think even from the import side, if you can just, if possible, tell us that what are the various changes which have happened. कि 2-3 साल पहले कितना import dependent था battery, and now what is the situation right now? That will be helpful.
I think packaging is the one part which was not happening in India at that scale, which is,
Okay.
it is happening today. In earlier days, I mean, in initial days, I would say normally everything was sourced from other countries. I mean, we were fully dependent upon the import. But now I think the 80% packaging is happening in India only. The 20% I am considering, which is the full package we are sourcing from other country for other energy storage sector or other sector in the lithium battery segment. But the rest 80% is we are packaging here, where we are using as I think Udit ji rightly mentioned that there are few companies. I mean, there are few companies who are working in this field, like motor controllers and other control cards who are making in India right now, like BMS and all. So when they started designing the products in India, then that's how the packaging now happening in India. I mean, it was again dependent upon the imported manufacturers. So now we are not 100% I would say dependent, but we are still dependent because the core material is still sourcing from the other countries. But yeah, but we are as I in conclusion I mentioned that the smart reliance, why I was saying that smart reliance is like that only. I mean, we are making maximum controlling part here, then now slowly we are moving to make it entire in our hand, or entire reliance in our hand. So of course the integration with the product is making by parts, and parts is giving us one opportunity that the packaging is now happening in India. But of course before 3 years it was not like that. Nowadays my old clients who are into this battery segment, they are doing here only. I mean, they are not sourcing control cards or BMS from other countries. They are sourcing from India only. So it is good. I mean, it is not happening earlier, right? So slowly it is moving in that direction, which you have just rightly mentioned. But yeah, at last, which thing I think has to be moved in a faster way is the recycling and urban mining, which I just mentioned. It is not happening at that scale, which has to be there, because we do have a lot of material in India as of today as well. So the setting up of robust battery recycling infrastructure is really required. That is not there. And when I was saying that the recovering of lithium, cobalt, and other metals like nickel and all, that has to be properly I mean, it has to be integrated with the proper policy where we can reduce import dependence, because we have the material, but we don't have that exact policy and the procedure to recover the lithium, cobalt, and these other metals from the existing material which is available in India. So plenty of, I mean, I was working on e-waste management also in few years back. But so that's how I knew there are a lot of material is already there, but we are not using in right direction in EV sector.
Recycling.
Yeah.
Great. So I think thanks for covering this. So very insightful, and I think we'll take it up again the next question with you.
Sure.
So my next question will go to Naveen Gupta, founder Trev Mobility. Naveen, from lenders' side battery degradation and resale value risk, besides subsidies, what additional mechanism or regulatory support are needed to make EV finance viable at a scale for EV fleets?
Thanks, Sunilji, for the question, and thanks for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm a 14-month-old startup, and I'm also bootstrapping like the other people. And when we really go out and seek finance, obviously EV lending is still a problem. It's not going away. And that scale, I'm sure at the time Udit started and at the time Kapil started, it will be much different, and we have a better opportunity. But yes, the clear doubts in the mind of EV lenders is your battery degradation, and also what is the residual value of your vehicle, right? And I don't blame them if I understand it from their point of view. My take on this is that, there are a couple of things which we should do definitely. One is that, all the fleet operators, all of us are using telematic devices. Now, these telematic devices do give you the battery health, that, what is the state of your battery, what kind of real-time inputs are there. But obviously, these are from MG, Tata, Citroen, or, BYDs and all. But definitely there has to be a standardization and a mandatory kind of a regulation wherein all this data is consumed and there is a wrapper made over it which ascertains that this is the certified kind of a value of your battery. And this can happen either by a government-led organization or by a private institution. But once that value comes in, definitely it will ease up the financial modeling for a EV lender. If we also see that this can be used as a wrapper even for a OEM like a MG or a BYD or other people who can offer you kind of a guaranteed buyback on your asset, which can then build up like a EV product offering for the financiers, and give them that confidence that हाँ कि गाड़ी की जो second life है वो actually है, which everybody has mentioned here. Parallelly, I feel as I think Mr. Vikrant also mentioned that reworking or refurbing of a battery is a big space, and that can also ascertain us to understand that if we can repackage our used batteries into some smaller storage capacities which can power up a two-wheeler or a three-wheeler or other kind of products, at least we will have a surety that once the end of life happens, what is the value of that battery which we are carrying, all of us as fleet operators. And once this entire thing gels up, I'm sure EV lending will become easier because people will be able to bill it on their books and make it in their numbers. So that's my take as a 14-month-old bootstrap startup on this subject.
Wonderful. So I think very well taken when we're talking about OEMs and in case the buyback values can be determined, so that will give a lot of comfort. Investors also, be it from the debt side or from the equity side, to understand that probably what is the value of the inventory that we're talking about today. And yes, like the points which you and Vikrant were talking about, recycling is a big scope for the market today, which definitely needs to be worked on. So I think, next year we should be able to see a better turnaround there where, people are working on the recycling side of the business as well. So I'm sure, there is a lot of development even on that side. Right. Thank you.
Yes.
So I will go back to Udit for my next question. So Udit, today when you're talking about India's 70% EV target for commercial vehicle by 2030 will need concessional finance, bank lending, and new instruments working together. Where is the biggest gap? Which of these is lagging most today and slowing the transition?
Thanks, Sonal. Again, very relevant question. And in fact, even being in the industry for so many years and, seeing EV startups in India for more than, I would say 7 to 8 years now, there is still a lot of gap available in the market, right? However, taking a macro view there, the government's vision is definitely bold, but inspiring. But let's be realistic also, 70% of EVs in the 70% of commercial fleet in EVs is almost, like 70-80K per year. 7 to 8 lakhs, so to say, right? Because a rough number which I got is more than 1 million commercial vehicles get registered in India in all form factors. So we're talking about 7 to 8 lakh vehicles getting registered in EV every year in India. And as fleet operators, there is only operations optimization that we can do in this area, because we even all of us on the forum, all of us outside the forum, taking together 7-8 lakhs is a big number, right? And for true scalability, it is something. This is, by the way, what we have been thinking around, right, at Snappy, that while we have built a strong 1300 fleet, taking it to 13,000 and then 13 lakh down the line might not be the same way we have done it before, right? So today, our idea is to fill the gaps in terms of all the three things that you mentioned, right? Concessional finance, lending as a product, and a new instruments which also includes asset buyback and also second life, right? And as my fellow mate Naveen also mentioned, right, that second life has been a issue with the financiers, right? Even today, and as Sonalji, you know it so well, right? That even today, in a CNG or maybe an ICE vehicle, after 7 8 years, the driver per se, who is the real kind of driver of the business as well, is so confident that I can get a residual value out of this car, right? Similar ideas and thought process needs to come maybe from an OEM or maybe from a policy level where we should obviously work together and bring a cohesive ecosystem which fills this gap. And where does this lead to, right? This leads to scaling at the driver level. So our vision and what we believe down the line, that unlocking driver-centric EV adoption is the next wave we should be looking at, right? As operator, I still remember back in the day when we introduced green vehicles to drivers. They were new to it. They were like, "Sir, we don't know what to do about it, how this should run," because they are coming from traditional CNG and
CNG
those
background,
vehicles.
right?
Just yesterday, I just thought to go on ground, get a sense check from drivers that if given an option after so many years, would you still go with the ICE, CNG, or an EV? And their first answer was EV. But
Wow, that's a very
yeah,
positive sign, huh?
and I was surprised. I was like, this
Yeah.
is still expensive, right? You might have this issue with charging infra. And their first and honest answer was, we know what the maths works and how it works. And we are sure, as you have built EV charging infra in Eastern India, you might be able to scale that or maybe partner with folks, right, to bring it easy for us. So accessibility of infra, like EV infra and cars, and their acceptability around EV was great. And kudos to the folks who are on ground and recognizing this. But on the financing side, right? And I did a deep dive with the financiers, right? I
Mhm.
asked them that how can we build a EV centric product for drivers, because today those will be the next view of adoption. uh, I'm talking about DCO, so to say, nothing new in this industry, but in EV, it is yet to be, it is yet to have its own value. And that is where we realize that concessional finance,
Mhm.
a good EV lending product for a person who might have a -1 civil score, or maybe someone who is new to credit, right? Those are
Mhm.
the areas where we see that we need to fill the gap and bring a more driver centric and asset centric financing solution. Uh, at Snappy, we are already collaborating with OEMs and putting driver first thought process to them, right? For example, you might be aware that Tata has recently come up with a larger battery pack on the same vehicle, right? And this is one of the pehel which we did long back, because our drivers had to come
Okay.
back to the hub to charge. And just imagine the plight that the drivers left at morning 6 7, they have to come back at 12 or 1 to charge the battery, just wait for 2 hours and then go again. So our
Mhm.
average drivers in a particular, in some particular geographies, are running 220 kilometers per day. That is way above the single charge that's available. So we are happy that OEMs are also acknowledging this, bringing up new variants wherein the single charge is going to 250 kilometers, right? And treating them as a core target group rather than pitching to fleet players, or rather than just pitching to passengers. It is more like a driver first inclusive mindset that we see, and we need to build around that. So that is the biggest gap today. And we invite everyone from government, OEMs, finances, funds, and fellow operators to build a truly inclusive finance and EV infra ecosystem. And that definitely is something that can take us much sooner to the 70% EV target, Sonalji.
Very thoughtful on that basis. Yeah, I think driver-centric approach is something which most of the fleet operators have been actively working on right now. Because they've seen that guys who have done it in the past, the old players who have done it in the past, they at the end of the day are not neither able to maintain the fleet nor able to maintain the drivers. So the hurdle is all so the hurdle is always there. Okay, if you're not able to maintain drivers or the fleet, that majorly impacts your operations. So even if you have almost 1,000 fleets or 2,000 fleets which are running, but if you're not able to take care of these basic things which are important, that will not work. And
Yeah.
I think going future, that's the approach with most of the new players are actually getting in, where the focus is more on drivers and the service. That's a critical part of it. Great. Thank you so much, Udit. My next
Sure.
question would be to Shantanu. हाँ जी sir, आप कुछ बोल रहे थे?
Maybe I take your leave.
Okay, there are one or two questions which have been posted in the group. So, do you want me to take up right now with you, or can I share your number? These guys can get in touch with you. I'll share your email ID.
I can reply right away if you can
Sure.
ask the question.
So, SC Agarwal ji has posted a question that you are aware batteries in EV are the basic component for an e-vehicle. Are the EV trucks mentioned in your presentation approved by testing agencies of MO heavy industry?
So it is about whether the trucks which are coming for registration, are they having proper approval from ARAI and the regulatory body or not?
Right.
Yes,
Right.
of course, without these approvals, they will not be able to get themselves registered. For homologation and for certification, they have to get their sample tested, and then only they get approval from the regulatory certification and testing bodies. They also decide the standards for battery, for vehicle, for their safety related standards, and then they are getting passed on to a road transport authority to check those certificates at the time of registration. So this is very well practiced and done in India.
Great. Thank you so much. So, Agarwal sir, I hope this answers your question. Thank you, Abhijit ji, for joining
Thank
in.
you.
So, it was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Right.
Same
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, my next question will go to Shantanu. Shantanu, some investors argue Indian EV valuations are running ahead of fundamentals. Do you see a correction ahead, or is this just optimism? Matlab, what are your thoughts on that? Since you're coming in from that investor domain, on valuations, what are your thoughts on it?
So it's a little of both. So when new sectors emerge, they're typically overvalued, and uh, it's a healthy combination of optimism as well as being slightly overvalued. What happens is that when a new sector is emerging, right? Say for example, an EV two-wheeler OEM is emerging.
Hmm.
They have the ability to show growth rates of 100%, 200% year on year, and that is why from a I mean, leaving aside growth rate from a pure revenue, EBITDA, gross margin standpoint, they may be slightly overvalued, but that is just because simply of the potential that they show to grow year on year. If once that growth rate settles down, a healthy correction will definitely happen. But I don't think that's anything to be worried about. This is sort of true for every new industry, every new company. So if there are about say a million, there were about 2 years back there were 600,000 EV two wheelers on the road. Today they're about close to 1.5 million EV two wheelers on the road. And that has shown more than a 2x growth rate. Now, this cannot happen in the petrol engine space. This cannot happen in any segment which is established for 20, 30, 40 years. So the optimism is for the growth rate, and that is true. And it will, I wouldn't even say correct, it will sort of normalize and the valuations will rationalize. But yeah, I think the valuations are reasonable at this point. Not too overvalued, not too undervalued either.
So this is like music to the ears, so that we're talking about, because generally when you go to any of the investors, they generally talk about the valuation numbers are hyped up, or this is not working, the sector mein kaise kaam hoga. But coming in from the investor side and your thoughts on those basis, so that's a very very positive feedback from you. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank
So
you.
my next question will go to Kapil. So Kapil ji, a battery passport now being planned in India would record and share data on batteries' health and usage history. Beyond this, what else will it take to build a vibrant resale market for EVs? So I think last two speakers have been talking about resale, recycling. So help us a little more about what is battery passport first of all, and do you think any other option which will help in resale market for EVs?
Thank you. See, the battery passport going to be a, so to say, unique number or for a battery which can help you get related data behind that number. So it
Okay.
could be like charging patterns and everything related to battery. So everything can be come out when somebody assess that battery passport number on some unified portal. So that is the thought process behind creating altogether this battery passport kind of a thing. Definitely, identifying which one is the battery is one object, but knowing the history, background, uses and everything is the second part of the battery passport thought process. I think I look at it a little differently. See, identification and knowing the stuff is good. That would help you do better analytics and figure out better products in terms of insurance कैसे देना है या warranty extend करना है नहीं करना है, all those things. But I feel there is a significant improvement required in the battery management system.
Hmm.
If your data is more mature and impactful, and I mean the controlling in a way that one cannot exploit the battery, one cannot use the battery out of non-standard format or non-standard recommendations. If that is being restricted, the battery management system, which is the BMS that we call, should control everything around the input that goes into the battery and the uses of it. If that is more advanced, I think definitely better set of the data which effectively improve the effectiveness of the overall concept of battery transport. So I think I feel like if the advancement in BMS goes better, along with obviously the battery chemistry and other things which are already on the radar and a couple of research is are going on, coupled with BMS would give you fancier and better and improved set of data control environment. And I think that outcome of data would help us create a lot of products around second use value, features and products which probably the second buyer would value. So I feel like BMS should be the first one to fix for. Battery passport is a good initiative, and the relevance of the data and the credibility of data should also be possessed and shared. That would effectively improve the other challenges which Naveen and others talked about in terms of second use, what will happen to car post 5-6 years, and all sort of challenges that probably today EV industry is facing, and we as fleet operators are also facing, where we are trying to get away or retire our older fleet which are more than 5 years old. So I think this is the path going to be, and this should help us navigate this biggest challenge of resale market.
Fantastic. So two very important points is one, apart from that passport option that we're talking about, battery management system to improve and advance so that you can take care of the battery life there, and the data. So it's like relevance of data becomes very very important, क्योंकि कई बार हम कुछ कर नहीं पाते क्योंकि हमारे पास data ही नहीं होता है. अगर हम वो डेटा को ठीक से एनालाइज करके उसको भी यूज कर पाए, दैट्स आल्सो अ वेरी गुड थॉट व्हिच इज बीइंग शेयर्ड बाय. थैंक यू सो मच, कपिल जी. So here I will go back to my next speaker. Once again, sorry. I'll go back to sorry. I'll go back to Vikranji. If you had to pick one game changer for India's charging swapping ecosystem, financing policy or technology, which would it be and why? I think very important question. Financing, policy, or technology? What is one thing which you want to pick up, which you think would change the segment totally, and what?
This,
What and why? Sorry.
yeah, of course. So this is very actually close question is very close to me as also, because as I mentioned that when we started our startup, there were no talk of EVs in the country. So nobody was discussing electric vehicles. It was very initial days in 16. So the most important thing which we felt that time, and also which actually eventually was driven by the entire country for EVs, is the policy, I guess. The policy was the missing part at that time, because I remember the first charger which we installed in Shram Shakti Bhavan in Ministry of Power in 2017, and
Wow.
the standards which we use was proprietary standard which we used that time. It was just built by us only. There were no standards in the country that time. And so it was although inaugurated by our honorable prime minister, but there were no standards of the product, which which type of product has to be there for recharging and all. But although later on we came to know at that time Tata and Mahindra's vehicle were charging, but later on that's how it happened, that government announced the standard, government announced the policies in 2018 itself. They announced the policy. So that was the driving force for us in India especially. But having said that, everything starts with capital. I'm not saying that capital is not required, the finance is not required, but I'm saying if a case like India, we really needed policy at that time, and now also to how to move forward and which standard and how the OEMs are working, the vehicle OEMs are working at back end. That's how the other integrated or allied component partners or OEM or design house should work out. So everything starts with capital, but policy is the main thing, which was the one game changer for India, for entire charging and swapping ecosystem. And if as you mentioned, charging and swapping, I would say swapping still is not popular as it has to be, right? Because of standardization. I mean, the standardization, the battery, and so a lot of things are happening. So it is not getting finalized, or it is not getting free since last 3 years. I mean, the swapping policy is still in draft. I mean, we are working on that policy since last 2-3 years. It is not finalized at that level, which has to be done. So policy. So that is the answer to your question. But everything starts with the capital. Everything starts with the capital. And whether you are building charging infra, battery swap station, deploying battery as a service, capex is high. So ROI is long, of course. So Indian EV adoption is still at nascent stage, and infra returns are not immediate without putting big capitals. So even if the best tech or policy support, it can't scale. So the tech and policy depend it entirely on execution, how we execute the entire tech which brings the EV charging and the battery swapping financing. Battery swapping ecosystem. It entirely depend upon how we execute. If we take example of swapping, policy. So again, the swapping is a easy discussion point, if I can take that again. So if we can see the Sun Mobility did well in initial days. It was very getting popular in local level, and they have done great job. Also now they have done great job. That's how the IOCL is come out in the picture now, because they wanted to scale it up at the national level. So again, execution. But we can have world-class tech to favorable policies, but without financing to roll out hardware or hire teams at a nodes, it stays on the paper. So again, policy is required, finance is required. Again, both are really required when technology is there, but that will also implemented when the execution is there. That again depend upon the policy. So the circle, I mean, they are all are complementing each other, and they are dragging each other into every direction. So financing gaps as of now are huge at early stage. So if we talk about EV infra, ma'am, honestly speaking, I mean, since we are live and I can speak out because it is a pain in the EV charging infra. We are not getting even Abhijit ji rightly mentioned. So he also rightly mentioned that it is under PPP mode project. Whatever the project he has explained in entire Bharatmala and Sagarmala project, it is under PPP mode. PPP mode. So how it is happening in PPP mode only, few banks are interested to invest this EV infra.
जैसे वो
But
HDFC का बता रहे थे.
HDFC बता रहे. There is no national bank who can invest the entire project. We are having very good project in the Himachal Pradesh, which you are also mentioning in initial introduction. It is very wonderful project. I mean, it is similar to, I mean, I was also part of core team in NHEV earlier, and we were discussing a lot of things.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So we were discussing a lot of things. So since I belongs to these two states, Punjab and Himachal, so I knew my state. So I started working in my particular state. That's how I think the whole ecosystem works. I mean, from where you belong, whatever you learn, whatever you learn, you want to pay back something to your Janambhoomi and Karambhoomi and all. So I made that project with the help of government, and now that is bringing good location in entire state, but no bank in Indian bank. I mean, they are able to fund the entire project. It is same project. Although the World Bank, the ADB, and the other STB, they are also interested. I mean, they are putting their effort at that some level, but no, they are not financing it. So financing gaps are huge at early stage. Early stage doesn't mean the company's early stage of any project.
Right.
Yeah. So swapping model earlier were unfamiliar, right, to traditional lenders, as you rightly mentioned. So traditional lenders, they don't understand how swapping will work. I mean, what we have to keep on track, what we not have to keep track. That's how it initially, could not financed. Nowadays, few NBFCs and few, I would say NBFCs are financing it, but not the banks.
Private sector banks or NBFC ने कुछ शुरू किया है.
So startups need access to VCs, green financing, which I am working on right now, because जब होता है ना कि बुरे वक्त में कोई idea आता है. So when I didn't get a support from Indian banking sector and other, then I moved to this green financing. Now I understand how it works, and it is very beautiful. I mean, बहुत अच्छे से उसको plan करके, I mean, they have given the entire ecosystem the option to how to get the fund. Then blended finance can also be one of the option which can be blended of both. Government backed guarantees can be one of the option, which like as we were discussing PPP mode project where government is P and the second
वहाँ पे तो मिल जाता है क्योंकि government के projects हैं, so that's why they know support is there.
So, no, that government project में मिल जाता है, but in triple P project is I'm saying in triple P project mean public private partnership project. So in P, the first P, public never gave any guarantee to second P, which is private in this segment also. So this also create very, big gap when we are trying to raise the fund for the government linked project. Because banks are not again confident, although the infrastructure which is we are building is on the government land or is recognized or given by the game.
The issue. Security
Now the issue comes because the land belongs to on national highway. It belongs to National Highway Authority.
That's what security becomes.
Yeah. So the land in the state belongs to the state any authority or revenue department or maybe the forest department. So we are not the owners. We can bring on the lease also, but we are not able to raise the fund by showing that okay, this is the infrastructure we have right now and we can get the funds. So this is how it is happening if we talk about the entire charging infrastructure development in the state and national level.
I think there are certain challenges, but मुझे ऐसे लगता है विक्रांत जी situations are improving.
Yeah,
मतलब जैसे
absolutely,
वो
absolutely. Yeah.
आप खुद 2017 से काम कर रहे हो, so I'm sure you have seen lots of changes that we're talking about, and I think you bang on it कि ठीक है, आप फाइनेंशियल्स की बात कर, फाइनेंसिंग की बात कर लो, आप इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की बात कर लो, लेकिन जब तक पॉलिसीज क्लियर नहीं होगी बाकी दोनों चीजों का कोई रोल नहीं है.
Right, right.
So I think here you're right on it that policies play a major role where any sector when you're talking about not only EV, any sector you're talking about, जब तक policies clear नहीं है government की side से वो चीजें move नहीं हो पाती हैं.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. We really appreciate your feedback. So my last question here would go to Naveen Gupta. So Naveen, again, on the policies that we're talking about today, what gaps in policy or market infrastructure needs to be addressed for fleet operators in India to reliably monetize carbon credits policy? So विक्रांत जी ने जो कवर किया था उन्होंने इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के पर्सपेक्टिव से कवर किया था. As a fleet operator, when you're talking about what are the policies which you think need to be taken care to monetize carbon credits today? Carbon credits is something new which has been discussed.
Yeah, definitely. I can talk about it with my personal experience of, studying it and kind of getting deeper into it.
Right.
Very honestly, while on paper it looks very big opportunity, like, आपके पास carbon credit होंगे, you will be able to trade them. It becomes a secondary revenue channel for you. But honestly, when I dig deeper and try to understand it, below are my submissions, and I may be wrong because of limited interactions I have had regarding this. I couldn't really find a very solid validation mechanism, right? Whenever you talk to people, the validation mechanism on how mobility may carbon credits will be calculated is not very structured. So I don't think so. There is a regulation kind of stuff or a laid down kind of policy कि ये है ऐसा है तो आपको इतना carbon credit मिलेगा. Again, I may be wrong because I talked to 3 or 4 startups, and I saw that the way they are thinking and calculating is kind of different. So what I believed is that the validation or really the understanding ki kya sahi hai is kind of difficult to get in my head. Secondly, if we talk about implementation of these things, they are costly. It's not like you want a certification or something. It is costly. B, it is still manual, right? So if I just take a dig at it from a mobility point of view, for us it should be very simple, right? So we have telematics data, we have charging cycles, we have everything, right? So but just basis that, why don't we have a tech enabled platform which reads this data and just give us the carbon credits basis that, right? So it helps you get the points at scale and at a very cheap kind of a way, right? C, even once you validate and everything is there, now where do I trade it? I really don't understand, because for a small operator like me, to find that global buyer for it or a domestic channel to sell it out, it's not very clearly laid out. There is no kind of a national stock exchange or kind of carbon
Where you can trade it.
credits kind of state wherein ki, whatever carbon credits you have, you can easily trade it. So overall, it looks very grand on a paper, but I'm still struggling and trying to find my way out of it. So I'm not sure like how is the experience of other fleet operators there.
Great. No, I think, I agree to that there is a lot of discussion which is going on carbon credits right now in last 8-9 months that we're talking about right now. So, but there is no clarity on the implementation. There is no clarity on how is it going to be traded. So I think a little new as a segment when you talk about as a product, when you talk about for any sector right now. So I think a good scope, but abhi India market ke hisab se abhi thoda sa niche hai, where probably a lot of work in progress needs to happen there. So great. Thank you so much everyone for joining in, and there are a couple of questions that I can just quickly take for 2-3 minutes. So, Vikramji, there is this question from S.C. Agarwalji. So, fees charged to test batteries tested by agencies are very high. Why not the fees be paid by the batteries PLI scheme fund? He's talking about कि जो battery
Yes,
testing की
correct.
fees होती है, that's very high. Can this fees be paid by the PLI scheme fund?
So
फिर वो
I mean,
PLI
it,
वाला
it, it
पैसा
is
वैसे
favorable. It is favorable argument actually, but how it is PLI scheme implemented, it is that's how it called PLI, production linked incentives. Because once we tested our battery or any equipment, I mean, if we talk about any equipment in PLI scheme, so I mean, we can't say anything. I mean, government will incentive once the product is it is sold to somebody. I mean, that's how the government link it with the back-to-back mechanism. The GST will be paid, and it will be in the reverse mechanism at back channels, of course. But it cannot be given at this stage because we do not know that product will go to the market or not. If the product is not, I mean, passing the test for this scheme, whatever the scheme we are applying for, what if it is not passed? It means the person who is building it, they have to rework on it and they have to reapply for the testing. And how many times we can pay for the testing fees? So this could be one of the, I mean, the reasons नॉर्मली द पीएलआई स्कीम में टेस्टिंग का कॉस्ट नहीं दिया जाता बिकॉज एक प्रोडक्ट को टेस्ट करने के लिए हो सकता है हमें 2 या 4 बार भी जाना पड़े लेबोरेटरी सो वी आर नॉट श्योर कि कब उसको रिवर्स करना चाहिए गवर्नमेंट को हमारे साथ भी बहुत बार होता है आई मीन लेट्स से फॉर वन प्रोडक्ट वी हैव टू गो सम टाइम फॉर 3-4 टाइम्स because there are minor modification every time. So not for our parameter, but for some parameter we again have to go to the labs for the testing and all. So it cannot be linked unless it is well proved कि okay this is the product and this has to be.
मतलब इस पे अग्रवाल जी what Vikramji is trying to say कि इसमें ट्रैक रखना मुश्किल है क्योंकि हमें पता नहीं है वो कितनी बार आपको जाना पड़ेगा so it's not possible to give a track on it.
फुल प्रूफ प्लान नहीं है इसमें कोई कि हम टेस्टिंग किसको फाइनल टेस्टिंग मानेंगे और इसका इंसेंटिव इस फॉर्म में नहीं है बट इफ प्रैक्टिकली आई वुड से there are few labs in countries like STPI has their own lab, STQC labs in country. They do offer some discount to MSMEs or startups. So that is also comes under incentives, but not PLI incentives, but they do consider some sort of offers for startups and MSMEs for new technology testing or the battery or EV testing that we have availed also. So it is not easy to track, I mean, the testing mechanism at a government level.
Well taken. I hope, Agarwal sir, this answers your question. The last question, I'm not sure if either of you will be able to cover it because it's on EV two-wheelers. लेकिन अगर आप में से कोई भी cover कर सकता है तो please do that. What are the subsidies available in EV two-wheelers manufacturing? If either of you would like to cover it, please do that. Otherwise, we can avoid it. So here I think all of them are from a different sector. So ये लोग सर infrastructure की side से हैं, they're more from the fleet side. So I doubt they'll be able to cover this question, but we will definitely get back on this. I will make sure my team reverts back to you on this. So Devesh, if you can just note down this question and revert back to him, we will take it forward from there. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining in and apologies for the extended session. But I really had a very, very interactive discussion with all of you. And I'm sure, the audience has also been able to take away a lot of information about EV as a sector, about policies, about infrastructure, about funding in the sector. So it's been a very good session along with you. Thank you so much for joining in. We really appreciate that.